Did you know that one unforgettable scene led to the permanent cancellation of Soul Train, the legendary show that molded an entire generation? Television history was altered and viewers were deeply disturbed by this horrific event. In this article, you will learn about the notorious performance that caused Soul Train to disband and the subsequent mayhem that took place behind the scenes. Soul Train, which has been airing for 35 years, introduced black youth culture to America every Saturday morning for an hour. Soul Train was known as the hippest trip in America because it was the venue where new musical and dance trends, as well as hair and fashion styles, were introduced. It was a crucial venue for the promotion of black musicians from the 1970s and 1980s onwards. By the 1990s, it had brought a lot of things to the forefront of the country's consciousness. It was a platform for popular culture that educated the general public about fashion, music, and dance. Soul Train was groundbreaking in its portrayal of black identity, hidden beneath its mesmerizing music, sparkling lights, and enchanted aura. Even though the civil rights movement achieved great strides, the era of great upheaval and poverty in which it was born persisted economically. It all started as a reaction to racist media and, worse, racist culture. Despite their upbeat and seemingly carefree delivery, Soul Train's message was firmly rooted in black empowerment. Soul Train favorite Lysa Scar said, "Being of mixed black and Mexican heritage, I spent my formative years on the streets of Inglewood, where Saturday mornings meant gathering with my people and celebrating our own dancing styles, eras, and fads. This is how music and dance defined his generation." As well as serving as executive producer, Soul Train's official host was Don Cornelius. The media's portrayal of black Americans, the disproportionate coverage of black crime, and the failure to adequately report instances of police brutality all irritated Cornelius. American Bandstand, an hour-long segment of ABC Network's program that featured teenagers dancing to the latest songs, inspired Cornelius to create his own television program. He yearned for positive, authentic portrayals of African Americans in media. Teens from the neighborhood would wait in line outside the network building every day after school as Cornelius scouted for potential performers in the hopes of seeing them pirouette on screen. In addition to tackling the severe lack of representation, Black Chicago was granted access to a program that honored the diverse talents of black artists. Your arrival on the Soul Train couldn't have been more perfect. Welcome aboard! The show premiered nationally in 1971 with a set that was both daring and colorful, matching its new location and slogan. Before long, artists began requesting appearances on Soul Train. During its peak, it featured performances by famous artists such as Stevie Wonder and Aretha Franklin. Wonder even wrote a new song for the occasion. Repeat appearances by the Jackson 5 boosted the show's celebrity status. Don Cornelius came to the realization that the artist's lip-syncing during tapings was a phase, but that live performances were what kept the show interesting and entertaining. Amazing things occurred because of it, like when Al Green gave a breathtaking performance despite hurting his arm, or when Barry White conducted a 40-piece orchestra. As if that weren't enough, James Brown got down on the floor with the dancers in a breathtaking purple costume. In the years that followed, Cornelius was extremely generous to non-black artists, allowing David Bowie and Elton John, two soulful performers, to perform. A Soul Train influence as a whole, Soul Train had a huge effect on the performing arts community. Soul Train was very intimate for me, says famous dancer Jeffrey Daniel. It was the catalyst for my entire career, but more significantly, it embodied the spirit of the youth of Black America. The show's promotion of black talent, both on and off camera, was something Cornelius personally oversaw. He assembled a team of black production experts to level the playing field for people of color. Los Angeles recreation centers were scouted by Pam Brown, the person in charge of booking talent for dancers with distinctive styles. The daring and imaginative dance styles that originated in California pleased and, on occasion, amazed Cornelius. He assembled a troupe of talented dancers known for their individuality and style in no time. Despite their stunning good looks, soul dancers face a tough life. 2 shows on Saturday and 2 more on Sunday were taped in a single weekend, making up an entire month's worth of episodes. They demanded a great deal of stamina, energy, and a plethora of different outfits. Despite the show's stated goal of showcasing black talent, dancers were not paid until they performed alongside an artist. There was no part of the show more memorable than the Soul Train line. During the second season, a new element was introduced. Dancers would line up in 2 rows across the center of the stage to create a channel. Afterwards, the audience was treated to performances by each dancer. The Soul Train line was the highlight because every dancer got their chance to shine. Instead of having everyone fight for a chance to be on camera during group dances, this style allowed each dancer to shine. The dancers used acrobatic moves, props, and their own unique style to grab the audience's attention. Instead of just being a regular part of the show, this iconic scene became its own cultural phenomenon. A tribute to Soul Train's impact on dance is one of its enduring effects. Instead of just showcasing current styles, the show actually created new ones. Soul Train was the first to popularize the steps of popping, locking, ticking, and whacking. Such styles eventually gave rise to hip-hop, breakdancing, and voguing. The backslide, later dubbed the moonwalk, was taught to Michael Jackson by Soul Train dancer Jeffrey Daniel. The robot dance, which Michael Jackson would later use as his signature move, was actually introduced on Soul Train. Soul Train was the birthplace of era-defining films in popular culture. Personal presentation Soul Train was well known for both its routines and its clothing. The dancers' avant-garde techniques, bright colors, and daring patterns made them instantly recognizable. Soul Train popularized medallions, bell-bottoms, and platform shoes. The show's style, which was lively, expressive, and casual, reflected the era. In the years leading up to Soul Train, black performers faced media harassment and even outright racism. The show changed the storyline by showing young black people in a positive and energetic light. Cultural and social effects, Soul Train reflected the political ups and downs of its time without taking a stand. The 1,970s were marked by conflicts involving segregation in schools and poverty in urban areas. Soul Train's upbeat and self-assured demeanor stood in sharp contrast to this. Soul Train's Scramble board and similar segments highlighted black historical figures such as Phyllis Wheatley and Harriet Tubman. Afro Sheen is a black-owned hair care company, and the show's partnership with them helped spread the message of natural black beauty. Soul Train's promotion of Afro Sheen and other natural hairstyles contributed to the widespread belief that black people are beautiful, a lasting impression from the legendary Jackson 5's performance of Dancing Machine to Al Green's electrifying live set. Soul Train was jam-packed with unforgettable moments. Its influence on American popular culture extends well beyond its musical legacy, touching on dance, fashion, and more. But what happened in that last shocking second that caused it to be canceled? That story will be covered later on. It captivated the crowd. Soul Train was deemed more of an experience than just a music presentation due to this type of performance. Soul Train also broke new ground by featuring white artists who were not common at all back then. The concert by David Bowie on November 4, 1975, is one such instance. Bowie was so anxious that he failed to commit the lyrics to memory. His performances were so harsh that they had to be re-recorded multiple times. With Bowie's help, the show was able to overcome its rocky start and become a force that challenged societal norms. According to legend, Soul Train would not tolerate mediocrity, and in an honest and open conversation off stage, Don Cornelius reminded Bowie of this. But, as with all good things, Soul Train had to end. While some fans were sad to see it end, others couldn't understand why it had ceased. After Soul Train left the 1970S and entered the 1980S, things began to change in the music business. The show's more traditional viewers were uneasy with the performances that came with hip-hop's meteoric climb to fame. The 1989 Milli Vanilli concert is one example of such an event. Just a few months after Don Cornelius introduced the duo as the first big rap artists in Europe, it came to light that they hadn't actually played any original music. Lip-syncing propelled them to fame. Because of this disagreement, Soul Train's reputation suffered greatly. One more thing that drew more criticism was David Bowie's 1975 performance. Stumbling through his vocals and appearing restless and inebriated, the eccentric, androgynous London singer needed multiple attempts to complete his performance. Don Cornelius, a perfectionist behind the scenes, allegedly got irritated with Bowie for not being prepared. Even in production, there were problems with the show. Many dancers felt their efforts were undervalued, which led to an escalation of tensions between the producers and performers. An insufficient amount of money was paid to many Soul Train dancers, even though they were the center of attention, created iconic movements, and set fashion trends. Several key actors left the show as the tensions rose. Even Soul Train struggled to attract A-list artists as the music industry evolved. Competitors BET and MTV, which offered hip-hop fans more contemporary venues, grew in popularity as the audience for these genres expanded. A major obstacle was that the show couldn't adapt to the changing times. A societal shift occurred in the realms of popular music, style, and fashion. By the mid-1986, Soul Train had lost its revolutionary status. Shows that featured hip-hop and urban culture were more popular with younger viewers. Soul Train's longtime creative director, Don Cornelius, struggled to relate to the latest musical trends. Legend has it that hip-hop was booted from the show because he didn't get it. As a result, the show's prior viewers stopped tuning in. People stopped watching because they liked shows that were more realistic. Although they continued to watch occasionally, longtime viewers began to reminisce about Soul Train as these problems intensified. As younger listeners preferred more experimental acts, Soul Train began to lose the appeal that had made it a Saturday morning staple. After much deliberation, Don Cornelius decided to step down as host in 1993. Love, Peace, and Soul. This was a fitting farewell, his final goodbye. He had evolved into the show's lifeblood, not merely a host. His successors did their best, but they were all ultimately unsuccessful in filling his shoes. What Cornelius left behind was a larger problem. He had plans for Soul Train. In his absence, the program was a failure. I felt my enthusiasm starting to fade. As the difficulties faced by the Soul Train crew behind the scenes became more apparent in the mid-2000s, it became clear that the group was no longer competitive. It had a low-key ending in 2006 after 35 years on television. After the last episode, devastated viewers couldn't understand what had happened to such a legendary show. From its 1970 debut until its 2006 end, Soul Train brought inspiration and joy to millions of people. It is widely considered to be one of the most influential TV shows of all time and has an unparalleled legacy. A lot of people who watch it think it's the greatest show ever. Listeners continue to sing Soul Train's praises. Internet users express their admiration by writing, "It was more than a show, it was a way of life."